Welcome back, everyone! In today's video, let's follow the journey of a young man as he builds unique and creative shelters in different spots throughout the forest. For the first shelter, he chose to build inside a small cave alcove located right at the edge of a stream. He began by carving and expanding the space, carefully shaping it into a wide enough area to accommodate the construction of his shelter. For the floor surface, he started by spreading a thick layer of mud to create a level and compact foundation. This muddy layer helped bind the uneven ground and filled in any gaps within the rocky surface of the cave. Once the mud had settled, he carefully selected thin, flat stones and arranged them one by one across the entire area. This not only added durability, but also gave the floor a more refined and natural appearance, making the interior of the shelter feel both solid and inviting. He ventured deep into the forest in search of strong, durable wood, selecting only the sturdiest trees that could provide the support needed for a reliable shelter. With a sharp axe in hand, he carefully chopped down the chosen trees, then carried the hefty logs back to his building site. Using his tools with precision, he stripped away the bark and shaved down the rough surfaces, gradually shaping each log into straight, squared beams. This not only made the wood easier to work with, but also ensured that every piece would fit together neatly during construction. Each wooden beam was carefully crafted with interlocking joints at both ends, allowing them to fit together securely like pieces of a puzzle. In addition, he drilled round holes at key points in the beams to insert wooden pegs, which would act as pins to lock the joints in place. This traditional woodworking technique not only added structural strength, but also eliminated the need for nails or metal fasteners, keeping the construction fully natural and durable. He brought the prepared wooden beams to the cave floor and began assembling the base structure. Starting with a rectangular frame, he carefully positioned it along the edges of the floor, aligning it precisely with the contours of the space. This frame served as the foundation for the walls. To construct the walls of the shelter, he chose a technique that mimicked the way bricks are traditionally laid, but with wooden beams instead. He cut the wood into short, uniform segments, each one solid and neatly shaped to serve as the main building blocks. On each beam, he carefully added 2 wooden pegs, positioning them so they would act as connectors between layers. He drilled precise holes into the underside of each lower block, aligning them with the dowels from the row below. With each joint, he pressed the pieces together, securing them without the use of nails or screws. He continued this process slowly and methodically, laying the blocks side by side, then stacking them row by row. In one corner of the cave, he transformed the natural rock formation into a rustic cooking area. Carefully selecting the spot where the stone wall curved inward, he designated it as the kitchen space and began shaping it into a functional stove. Once the location of the stove was firmly established, he returned to building the rest of the shelter. He continued stacking the wooden beams with precision, extending the walls from the kitchen area outward to complete the structure. The result was not only a strong and stable structure, but also a beautifully crafted wall that showcased the raw elegance of natural wood and traditional craftsmanship. At the entrance to the bunker, he crafted a sturdy wooden door by placing several closely spaced wooden slats. Each slat was measured and cut to ensure a perfect fit, creating a solid, seamless surface. He added crossbars for added stability. Then, using traditional wooden pegs, he fastened the door to the cave's frame. The door fits snugly into the structure, providing both privacy and protection while preserving the natural, handcrafted beauty of the entire shelter. At the top of the structure, he added a series of wooden beams to serve as the base for the roof. These beams were carefully measured and evenly spaced, running across the top of the walls to form a sturdy framework. This framework not only connected the walls together, enhancing the overall stability of the shelter, but also provided a solid foundation for the roofing materials that would be laid on top. He selected thin, flat stones from the surrounding area, carefully choosing ones that were easy to shape yet durable enough for roofing. Using a sharp tool, he scored and trimmed each stone into small, evenly sized rectangular tiles. This process required patience and precision to ensure that every piece matched in shape and thickness. Once the tiles were shaped, he drilled a small hole near the top of each one. Through these holes, he threaded strong natural fiber ropes or vines, effectively turning the stone tiles into hanging shingles. Using the carefully crafted stone tiles, he began attaching them to the wooden roof frame, row by row. Starting from the bottom edge of the roof, he fastened each tile in place by tying the ropes through the beams, allowing the stones to hang securely. The finished result was not only functional and waterproof, but also a striking display of natural craftsmanship. He needed to build a bridge to connect the shelter to the opposite bank of the stream. To begin, he focused on creating a strong foundation beneath the water's surface. He crafted several wooden frames, each resembling a square grid, by fastening thick wooden beams into a lattice-like pattern. These frames would serve as the footings for the bridge. Once the grid frames were completed, he carefully lowered them into the stream, placing them at evenly spaced intervals across the water. To secure the structure and ensure it could support the weight of the bridge, he connected the frames together using a horizontal beam across the top. Then, he added 2 diagonal frames on either side, anchoring them firmly to form supportive braces. This combination of vertical, horizontal, and diagonal wooden frames created a stable base, strong enough to support the bridge that would soon span from the cave shelter to the opposite land. Next, he connected 2 long horizontal beams across the tops of the support frames to form the base surface of the bridge. These beams stretched from one side of the stream to the other, creating a sturdy pathway above the water. They were securely fastened to the underlying framework, ensuring the bridge could bear weight and remain stable even with frequent use. At the other end of the bridge, where it meets the other side, he built a small staircase to make it easier to move from the ground to the deck. To do this, he attached wooden beams diagonally at an angle, creating a sloping structure, forming the frame for the staircase to the top of the bridge. On top of the bridge, he installed a series of closely spaced wooden planks to create a solid deck. Each plank was carefully measured and cut to fit the 2 horizontal beams below. During installation, he made sure there were no gaps between the planks, creating a smooth and sturdy deck. This tight fit not only makes the bridge comfortable and safe to walk on, but also adds durability allowing it to withstand the weather and weight of daily use. The finish gives the bridge a clean, well-crafted appearance, seamlessly connecting to the opposite shore. He also added crossbars for the stairs up to the bridge. On both sides of the bridge, he installed vertical wooden posts at regular intervals, firmly securing them into the edges of the bridge deck. These posts served as the support pillars for the railing system. Once all the vertical posts were in place, he connected them by fastening horizontal wooden beams across the top, running parallel along each side of the bridge. This created sturdy handrails that added both safety and visual balance to the structure. The simple yet effective design of the railing not only made crossing the bridge more secure, but also gave it a finished, well-built appearance, blending seamlessly with the natural surroundings. With that final touch, the first shelter was complete. From the carved-out cave walls to the carefully crafted roof and the sturdy bridge connecting it to the opposite bank, every detail had been thoughtfully built by hand. The once empty alcove had been transformed into a warm, functional, and beautifully rustic dwelling, perfectly nestled within the heart of the forest. He prepared a simple meal using the small stove he had built inside the cave. With the warmth of the fire and the quiet sounds of the forest around him, he cooked with ease, enjoying the comfort of his newly finished shelter. After the meal, he sat back and rested, taking in the peaceful atmosphere. It was a well-earned moment of calm after days of hard work. Moving on to the second shelter, he chose to build it underground. He began by marking out a multi-sided circular space on the forest floor, carefully measuring and outlining the shape to ensure symmetry and balance. This defined area would serve as the foundation for the entire structure. With the layout set, he prepared to dig deep into the earth, carving out the ground to create a solid base for the subterranean home he envisioned. The unique shape not only added visual interest, but also reflected his thoughtful approach to blending design with the natural landscape. He began excavating the foundation by digging deep into the earth, carefully following the edges of the marked, multi-sided outline. As he dug, he shaped the underground space with precision, ensuring the walls were smooth and the layout was well-defined. Instead of creating a completely flat floor, he thoughtfully left raised platforms in specific areas. One of these platforms was designated for the bed, another for the kitchen, and a third for the staircase that would provide access to the surface. Each section was carefully calculated and carved directly from the soil, blending form and function into the underground design. By integrating these elevated zones into the original dig, he laid the groundwork for a practical and organized living space, all seamlessly built into the natural terrain. He planted sturdy wooden posts into the ground, positioning them precisely along the edges of the underground foundation where the corners of the walls would be. Each post was driven deep into the soil to ensure stability, forming a structural framework that would support the walls above. These vertical beams served as the skeleton of the shelter, marking the boundaries of the space and giving shape to the multi-sided underground room. To build the walls of the underground house, he used horizontal wooden beams, laying them one on top of another with each piece tightly pressed against the next. Starting from the bottom, he carefully stacked the beams along the wooden posts he had planted earlier, forming solid, interlocked layers. As he continued upward, the walls gradually took shape, with each row fitting snugly and securely to create a uniform surface. Little by little, the earthen edges of the dugout foundation disappeared behind the neat wooden structure. By the time he reached the top, the entire underground space was enclosed with sturdy wooden walls, giving it a warm, natural, and well-fortified interior. At the center of the underground house, he planted a tall wooden post, driving it deep into the ground to serve as the central support for the roof. This central pillar rose high above the surrounding walls, extending beyond the top edges of the structure. Its height and placement made it the key anchor point for the entire roof design. He then connected wooden beams from the top edges of the walls to the peak of the central post, forming a conical roof frame. Each beam was carefully measured and angled, reaching upward from the perimeter and meeting precisely at the top of the tall center pole. This cone-shaped framework not only provided a practical design for shedding rain and debris, but also added a unique architectural touch to the underground house, blending natural form with functional craftsmanship. He covered the conical roof frame by attaching horizontal wooden slats, similar to the way he did the walls below. Starting from the bottom up, he nailed the wood to ensure the roof was completely sealed from wind and rain. However, at the section of the roof directly above the kitchen area, he intentionally left an opening. This gap was reserved for a chimney, allowing smoke from the stove below to escape safely. From the stove pit below, he began constructing a chimney by connecting long wooden beams that extended upward toward the opening left in the roof. These beams were arranged vertically to form a hollow shaft, guiding smoke from the fire straight up and out through the top of the shelter. Each piece was securely fastened and carefully aligned to ensure the chimney remained stable and allowed for efficient airflow. This wooden smoke vent not only added a rustic charm to the structure, but also served as a functional solution, allowing him to cook safely inside the underground home. He used wooden stakes with one end carefully sharpened to a point, driving them firmly into the ground along the edges of the bed platform and the staircase. These pointed stakes served as protective barriers, helping to reinforce the soil around these areas and prevent erosion over time. He set out to find a specific type of soil with a clay-like consistency, dense, sticky, and ideal for shaping. After gathering a sufficient amount, he brought it back to the construction site and began preparing it for use. He poured water over the clay-rich earth and started mixing it thoroughly by hand and with simple tools, working it into a smooth, pliable material. The resulting mixture became thick and moldable, perfect for building or sealing surfaces. This clay blend would soon play an important role in finishing various parts of the underground shelter, offering both insulation and structural reinforcement. He used the clay mixture to coat the entire outer surface of the wooden chimney structure on the roof, carefully applying the thick, sticky layer by hand. He made sure it filled every gap and sealed all the joints between the wooden beams. Once the clay layer had been evenly applied and smoothed out, he added another protective layer by placing thin wooden shingles tightly side by side over the clay surface. These wooden pieces were arranged meticulously, overlapping slightly to ensure there were no gaps. Inside the shelter, he repeated the same careful process for the interior section of the chimney. First, he coated the wooden structure with the clay mixture, applying it evenly along the inner shaft that rose from the stove pit toward the roof opening. He pressed the clay firmly into every corner and seam, ensuring a tight seal that would prevent smoke from leaking into the living space. After the clay had been smoothed and properly shaped, he once again layered thin wooden planks over the surface, placing them closely together to create a solid outer shell. The result was a functional and well-insulated chimney that guided smoke safely out of the underground home, while maintaining the handcrafted beauty and warmth of the entire space. The sleeping platform also required the same careful finishing. He began by spreading the clay mixture over the surface of the earthen bed base, smoothing it out to create a flat, even layer. Once the clay layer had set slightly, he laid thin wooden planks across the top, placing them tightly side by side. These planks formed a clean, firm sleeping surface comfortable, raised, and protected from the cool, damp earth below. For the interior floor of the underground house, he finished it by placing wooden planks close together, covering the entire surface. Each plank was carefully trimmed and aligned to fit perfectly, leaving no gaps. This created a smooth, solid floor that was both comfortable and warm, separating the living area from the rough ground below. The wooden floor not only made the shelter more practical and livable, but also brought a sense of craftsmanship and natural beauty to the underground home's interior. He took the soft clay mixture and began shaping it into uniform round tiles by hand. Each tile was carefully molded to be the same size and thickness, forming smooth, circular discs. He paid close attention to consistency, making sure the edges were even and the surfaces flat. He used the round clay tiles to cover the conical roof, starting from the bottom edge and working his way upward. Each tile was carefully placed so that it slightly overlapped the one beneath it, creating a layered, shingle-like pattern. This method not only helped the tiles stay securely in place, but also allowed rainwater to run off easily, protecting the roof from moisture. As he continued to lay the tiles in neat, circular rows all the way to the top, the roof gradually transformed into a beautifully textured surface, both weather-resistant and visually striking. He began by crafting a square tabletop, carefully joining smooth wooden planks together and sanding the surface to create a smooth, even finish. Now that the roof was fully stabilized by the surrounding structure, he sawed off the upper portion of the central post, transforming it into a sturdy and perfectly centered table leg. He then securely attached the wooden tabletop to the trim post, creating a simple yet elegant table right in the heart of the underground house. And with that final touch, the second shelter was complete. Nestled quietly beneath the forest floor, this underground home stood as a warm, sturdy, and beautifully natural refuge. Thank you for accompanying him on this journey. If you like, don't forget to leave a like and a subscription so you don't miss the next videos. Goodbye and see you again.